If you want to see part 4 of the 4-part series on my palette collection, then you are in the right place. Stick around. Hi there, it's Hélène, and I cannot believe it. It is part 4, the last video in the 4-part series of my palette collection. It has been a marathon. It took 4 hours to film this thing, so I hope you've been enjoying it. If you're new here, welcome, and if you are not new here, welcome back. I am so pleased to wrap up this series. There is so much variety in this last installment of this 4-part series, or last part to this 4-part series. We have so many brands to go over, including, this is just a sprinkling of them, we have Ciaté, we have Zoeva, we have Pure, we have some more Morphe, we have Buxom, Sugarpill, Violet Voss, HUDA Beauty, Lawless Beauty. There's so much. It is the longest list of the bunch because in some cases I only have 1 or 2 of every one of those different brands, and the list is way too long for me to present to you before you go into the video. So let's get to the video directly. I've talked enough. I hope you enjoy the show and see you at the end. Now let's go really quickly through BH Cosmetics palettes because I have swatched a bunch of them, but I have not really used any of them. The first one that I have to show you is La Vie d'un Prince, based on the name of a quite popular YouTuber. It is a row of pretty much neutral colors and then a real bam of colors with some very colorful mattes on the bottom. And the colorful mattes on the bottom are what attracted me to this palette, and I'm very much looking forward to doing some eye looks, probably over the springtime next year. I was very impressed by the quality of the shadows so far for the price tag. Next up is the Aurora Lights. I have this palette, but I have not done a look with them. I was just drawn to the baked colors in here. I think that they will be a whole lot of fun to play with, but I really want to play with them on camera with you, and so I have been holding off using them until I get a chance to do so. Next up is a set of palettes that I have swatched on camera with you, and I really wanted to have a bunch of colorful mattes that I didn't really care what happened to them. And so these 2 palettes, the Take Me Back to Brazil palettes, I think are great for that purpose because I can just lug them around, do whatever it is that I want to with them without worrying about the shadows. So for Halloween purposes, etc. That is why I got these palettes, and the pans are absolutely tiny. But it's the variety that I was after, not the quantity of shadows. So I'm pretty happy with the fact that I have this rainbow palette and the Rio edition that I'm about to show you. So here is the Rio edition. So very much the same thing, but a lot more shimmers / shimmer metallics in this one. So I feel like they are complementary to each other. But I will say, with pans as small as they are, those 2 were a challenge to swatch. Now next up I have a couple of the Zodiac palettes from BH. And these were very popular, I think, back in 2018, but they are relatively new to me. And as you can see, they are untouched, and I will be swatching them and playing with them on camera with you, I promise. I was just drawn to them. In this case, specifically, the purples really drew me in, and I am very curious about the baked shadows, just as I was in the Aurora palette. And since I enjoyed the look of that first Zodiac palette, I did also pick up the Love Signs palette. And for me, ordering from the US, I do have to pay shipping, so I do tend to purchase a bulk of palettes if I'm going to order from BH Cosmetics. This is the second palette, and where there were purples in the previous one, this one has quite a significant number of neutrals. but I do feel like the baked shadows on the periphery do have quite a bit of color variation, and so it did keep my interest along with the couple of pops of color in the mattes. Next, I have a few Morphe palettes that I have not depotted. You did see the 39S and Jaclyn Hill palette, and the 39A, I think it was, the Dare to Create. So you saw those depotted, but I have a few that are Morphe palettes that are not depotted that I'd like to show you. This is the 10G Glisten Up. Oh, and you saw the 25L as well, depotted. This is the 10G Glisten Up, and this was the Pride palette for 2020 versus the 25L that was 2019. And I do like, believe it or not, the glitters in this one, and I liked it so much that I purchased one for my friend Steph in Ireland for her birthday, and I'm very happy that we both have it because it's just the kind of palette that is fun to play with. This is a playtime palette, if nothing else. Now, one palette that I did give away, which was the 35B, I kind of regretted not having the mattes to play with, so I did pick up, when it was half off, the James Charles and Morphe palette. I'm not a big fan of James Charles, but I wanted the neutrals that were available in the 35B, and this palette gave me what I felt was missing in my collection at that point, a go-to palette for a bunch of mattes that were just basically the full rainbow. And I felt that it was a little bit more useful than the BH Cosmetics Take Me Back to Brazil palettes. Once I saw the size of those, I'm pretty happy that I decided to go for this one when it came available half off. And this is my crown jewel of a Morphe palette because it is the 35M Boss Mood. I think it is the absolute best color story Morphe has ever come up with, and I'm super, super happy with it, and I would recommend it to anyone. If you like purples and greens, this is a beautiful, beautiful palette, and I just think that they absolutely killed it with the color story, and it's on sale. There's a fluff here. And it's on sale right now on Sephora Canada for I think $16. It's an absolute steal. It's a beautiful, beautiful palette. I cannot rave about it enough. I am such a sucker for lime green and purples, I kid you not. Now I have a bunch of palettes where from different brands where I only have one or two of each from each brand. So I just thought that I would quickly shoot through all of these. This is the newer one out of the two that I have from Jouer, and it's the Essential Matte and Shimmer. I love the animal print on the palette, and it was really one that I chose to have as a complement for the Ultra Foil palette that I have from Jouer. So let me show you that one. This is the one that I had first from Jouer, and I do like the fact that I can do a full look with the one brand at this point. This is a very nice topper shade or inner to 2/3 of the lid type of option. It's a very nice palette. And I do like the construction of these. They're quite sturdy. One that was a disappointment to me in that it did not stick around very long is the Estee Edit. And it is a two-sided palette. This is the face palette. And this is the eyeshadow palette, although you can use both sides for eyeshadow if you like, and highlighter for that matter. I think it is so sad that this brand disappeared because they had some really great ideas, and I'm not sure how they didn't make it, but I am happy that I ended up getting the combo that is a lovely magnetic attachment. I really like that. I also have a couple of palettes from NARS. This is the NARS Provocateur, which is a very interesting set of shadows. My favorites are these two right here and this one for the brow bone. It does create some pretty interesting sultry looks. And then this is a face palette from NARS. I do really, really like the design of this packaging, and these are beautiful blushes and highlighters. I really enjoy using this palette. You can see some substantial amount of wear for the size of my collection in this palette. And I do really like this palette as well, although just like the Elements palette, I keep it in the box because I don't like this kind of packaging, but the highlighters in it are really, really nice. So you can use them as highlighters, blushes, and or eyeshadow, and I tended to use these for the most part as eyeshadow. And just like the Cleona eyeshadow or highlighters and a few other highlighters like the Alchemist highlighters from KVD Vegan Beauty, these are beautiful on the eye, especially these guys if you want kind of a special effect to the eye. And then of course any of the other ones would do well on the eye just as much as they would on the face. And this was, I think I paid $28 Canadian for it, and I have recommended it over and over and over again on this channel. It's just powder products. There are no rules. We can use them however we want. Next up is Buxom, and I have the Suede Seduction palette. This one has had a little accident, but they are beautiful shadows. That was the second one that I purchased, and this is the one that sold me on Buxom to begin with, and it is Dolly's Wild Side. And this one is one that I repressed. It was a sample that I repressed into a full pan. It was a pan that broke. And this is La La Lavish, which is not part of this original set. What's neat about Buxom is that it comes in trays, and you can swap out the shadows and just buy individual shadows and remake your palette if you like. And the palettes are pretty solid construction. They're a little bit bulky, but they're definitely solid construction. I have a few cream palettes. I have two lipstick palettes, one from L'Oreal, which is a beautiful nudes palette, and also one from Maybelline that is more kind of a more vibrant palette, but still some nudes on this side. And I do enjoy having a lip palette when I am traveling, either lip palette or blister packs. And also from Maybelline, I have this Master Contour that is actually a really, really solid palette with the contour, the blush, and the highlighter. It's a really good palette. I don't know if they sell it anymore, but what a great find this was. One more cream palette that I have that I mostly use for Halloween or special effects type of stuff. It's a dupe from the Makeup Forever palette that is of a similar nature. Another cream palette that you would have seen in my Partners in Cream. There's only one product in here that is the original. This is the Moonlight Cream Highlighter from Cover FX. This is the Tartiste Contour, and then this is Boing number 1 and number 2 that I've transferred in here. I really thought this Cover FX quad was great. It had 3 concealers in it along with the highlighter, and I managed to finish all of them. Very, very good products. I have 3 palettes here from these Watier. These first 2 are from this year's collection. This is the Diamond Dreams collection, and these eyeshadows are beautiful. I've done a couple of looks so far on camera with these. And this is the Face palette that is absolutely beautiful. Great color options for light to medium. And this is the Stardust palette from last year, and it has the same type of cover as the Ciaté London palette had, kind of that same effect. And this was the set of 9 eyeshadows last year. Very solid formula for these Watier. I'm a big fan of the brand so far. And it's a Canadian brand, which I'm very happy to support. I have one palette from Hourglass, which is the Ambient Lighting palette in Incandescent Light, and that is what it looks like. I have used it on and off. I just kind of rotate it in and out of what it is I'm doing for face products. I have 2 palettes from MAC. This is one that I got a couple of holiday seasons ago, I guess. I'm not too keen on it. It was a really disappointing first try at MAC, I'll admit. I don't know if I'm going to declutter it or not. And then this Basic Bitch palette from MAC was a hand-me-down from a friend of mine, Lillian, and I'm very happy that she decided to handed over to me. I really like this cool toned palette. It's so different from so much I have in my collection that I'm super happy to have a more solid, useful palette from MAC than my first foray into the brand. Next, I have a couple of palettes from Huda Beauty. This was my first attempt with the brand, and the Coral Obsessions palette is quite nice. I'm happy to have it in my collection and will continue to use it. And I do love the mini nature of it. And this is my new love from the brand. It is a very, very interesting color story, and I'm super happy to have it in my collection, even though I still have to play with it quite a bit to decide what it is that I think of it. I just believe that the color story is so unique to anything else in my collection, and I'm very happy to have it. One that I'm still hemming and hawing about is one that I purchased because of Samantha March, and it is the One palette from, from Lawless Beauty. And I have swatched it on this channel, but it is very, very neutral. It's a neat color story, but again, very neutral, and I have to give it its fair chance. It's just more neutral than I usually feel called to by a palette, but it does have a couple of punches of color, and I really need to give it a chance. So you will see some looks with the One coming up in 2021. One brand where I don't have as much of an issue color-wise is Violet Voss. This is the Like a Boss palette, and I really, really like this palette, and it has made me want more from the brand. I especially love this center column, and kind of like in a T is how I like to use the palette. And the mattes, I just see them as supporting characters, but these metallics are just absolutely beautiful. This one and this one as well. They're just, they make a look, they make the creation of a look effortless. It is such a good palette. And the Like a Boss palette is what made me, or convinced me, to get the hashtag palette as well, because I felt like the colors in here were quite complementary. So this is like the One palette from Lawless Beauty, but on major steroids, because it's got a whole lot more purples, a whole lot more yellows, and I think that this is more like what I wanted the One palette to be. So I'll have to maybe put them against each other and see what kind of looks I can create with both. I have swatched this one on the channel, but I have not created looks with it yet. So far, I really like Violet Voss palettes. I'll put this one up front because I've done looks with this one, but I've swatched both. It is very tempting for me to just keep buying from the brand, but I really have to play with especially this one more before I decide that I want more. But so far, what I've seen from the brand, I'm really impressed. Now from Ciaté, I have a couple of palettes. I have the Glitter Storm. I really like the packaging, but what's inside it's okay. It's okay. It's not bad. These guys up here are what make the look. But the satins and mattes are really, really plain. It's really the three top shades that make this palette. But I don't think that I would do a whole lot of recommending of this one if they have anything similar in their line. The belle of the ball for me from Ciaté is this Chloe Morello Volume 2. It's amazing. And I really wish they would have come out with another color story similar to it. This whole second row is absolutely beautiful. This chartreuse is amazing. This halo color is amazing. This one, and this one create such an amazing sultry look. And this platinum, holy cow, it's beautiful. And one of the favorite mattes in this whole palette is Pony. It's so nice. Pony and Violet are my two favorite mattes from this palette. It's such a good palette, and it's so sad that it was limited edition. Here is a single palette that I have from Zoeva called Offline, and I'm glad I have a chance to try the Zoeva brand and feed my love of the Matrix movie theme with Offline. All of the names of the shadows in here remind me of the movie in some way, shape, or form. and even says, please leave your message after the tone. It's just so neat. I just like having a palette in my collection that has kind of a sci-fi electronics kind of a theme, even if it's more analog. It doesn't matter. The geek in me really likes this palette, and I'm happy to have a chance to try the Zoeva brand. So far I have swatched it, but I definitely need to play with it some more. When it comes to Becca, I only have 2 palette type products. I have the Volcano Goddess that I have swatched, but I do have to play with it on the eye. And it disappeared so quickly, I was not in a rush to play with it on camera because it's not available. But it got poo-pooed quite a bit, and especially because of the last column, but that is what draws me to this palette, so I'm looking forward to playing with it. And I really like the packaging on it. And same thing for, I hope not to blind you, same thing with the Be a Light packaging from Becca. I think that it is a beautiful, if I can get it open, a beautiful face palette with a blush, bronzer, and a couple of highlighters. It's a very, very nice palette, and every time that I have used it, I enjoy it, and I do appreciate having it as part of my rotation for face palettes. Continuing on with this hodgepodge of palettes, I have one from Pure and Barbie as a collab, and I did play with this one on camera, and it is a very nice design on the inside. My only complaint is these triangles are quite small to get a brush into. I don't mind the color story at all. I think it's interesting. And for a winter type release, fall winter type release, I do really like the design on the outside. On the inside, it all matches, and it is the Barbie pink. I think they did a good job. And then a few other palettes. This one was a hand-me-down from my friend Steph, and it is a set of couple of highlighters and 6 blushes from Revolution. And I also have another hand-me-down from her from Freedom Pro Blush Palette. And again, 2 highlighters and 6 blushes, just a different configuration. And I have been enjoying playing with these so far. And then I have this Quo palette that is a nice bronzer, highlighter, and contour palette that I have used quite a bit. I don't know if you can see the dips on camera, but I have used this palette a lot. Now I have a few palettes from Beautē. This is the Classical Paradise that I received from Steph as a gift, and I really am quite smitten with this palette. Now the white stuff all around, that is me with white nail polish because the red was affecting my ability to see the colors, and I really, really like this color story a lot. I am a sucker for burgundy and red, and this speaks to me so much along with the grungy yellow colors. It's a palette that is so me. She picked so well in deciding to send me this palette. And Steph was 2 for 2 because she decided to get me the Flare palette this year. And I cannot believe this color story. It is so up my alley. It's so amazing. So with those 2 from Beautē, I feel absolutely spoiled, I think is the right word. It's such an amazing color story, and I've swatched this one, but I have not played with it yet. And I almost feel like it has to be the right day because I don't know, I want it to be special when I go and play with this palette and put it on my eyes. Maybe I'm weird, but that's just the way I think. It's just the way I feel. And a couple of other palettes I got from Steph are, that was from our makeup swap. This is the Certified Destiny palette. And I like both of these. This one was such a neat color story, and the color Moss, it so got me. It so got me. I like so many of these colorful mattes, and the color Moss has a bunch of different meaning for me. I love the Mystic Purple. Remedy is gorgeous. It is a truly beautiful color story. And not only did I get one certified palette, but I got a second one. This is the Affinity palette, and I was so delighted to get this one too because basically half the palette is purples and pinks. And that just warms my heart. And then you add in a couple of nice yellows up there. This palette absolutely speaks to me on so many levels. It's such a beautiful and fun palette. It goes after the colors that I love the most. If there had been a chartreuse in here, it would be 100% complete for me. And finally, here in this set, I have the Melt Cosmetics Impulsive palette, and I am so happy. This one has been on my wish list for a long time, and their site had a 50% off sale, and I just jumped at it, and I'm so happy I did, because the color story of this palette just speaks to me on so many levels, especially this side in a very, very big way. And the taupes and purples on this side also speak to me. But the one side that I think about the most when I think about this palette is this side. And the looks I have done with this palette so far have been really great. It's weird, bulky packaging, but I actually like it. I like the weight of it, and I think the design is really neat. But maybe that's just me. And all the palettes are magnetic. All the pans, pardon me, are magnetic. You can take them out to your heart's desire, which I think is pretty cool. Another palette that I got from Steph is this Glam and Glow Strobe Powder Palette. And it's a really kind of neat palette of 6 highlighters. And this one, if I want to know that I'm just going to go in and have a colorful highlighter, but that is going to be flattering, this is a palette that's a no-brainer. So I'm happy that she gave this to me as a hand-me-down, and I am playing with it. I have a couple of palettes from Sugarpill that I have featured very recently on this channel. This one is the Fun Size palette, and I have had my eye on this palette for a while, and it's a recent addition to my collection. Before this one, I had a total of 8 singles from Sugarpill. And most recently, along with the Fun Size, I did get this Cool Pro palette, and that is what it looks like right now. I did have a little oopsie with this one shadow. It ended up there was some sort of a fiber, like almost like a bristle hair in this pan, and it was kind of troubling. But I managed to yank it out, and it seems to be fine. But it was really weird. I do like this color story, but as it turns out, it is somewhat similar to the Spectral palette from Linda Hallberg. Not an exact dupe by any means, but the color story is similar, and I thought I would just mention it. I'm happy to have added 6 more singles to my collection of Sugarpills, so that brings it to a total of 14 shadows plus the Fun Size. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I think I have enough Sugarpill for quite a while at this point. I have this single Makeup Forever 9-pan that is the only one I have not depotted. It is the most neutral out of the 3. And I don't know, I didn't want to mess with it. I think it's one that I can very easily reach for a satin or a metallic shadow. And that's why I just left it in its original packaging. And also as a reminder of what the other 2 looked like. And it is actually quite heavy packaging, which is interesting. Just a few more. This one is one of my crown jewels as far as what I've added to my collection this year. This is the Tiny Marvels from Sydney Grace, and it is a fantastic palette. Absolutely fantastic. Every look I've done with it so far has been wonderful. The mattes are beautiful, pigmented, blendable. The shimmers are out of this world. Fire Butts is amazing. Scarab is amazing. Meadowhawk, holy cow. Everything I've used so far has been so good. I'm very, very happy to have this palette and then some. I'm also very pleased to have my first palette from UOMA Beauty. And this is the Black Magic palette. And it is the reds that attracted me to this palette. So I'm happy to have the reds, the smoky and metallic shadows, and this black right here. So I feel like I can do a more neutral look or really go to town with the reds. I'm not as crazy about the blues. apart from the two blues, everything in this palette speaks to me, and I feel like I can play with it quite a bit. Part of it makes me think of Colored Rain, and this palette makes me interested in trying more from the UOMA Beauty line. Now I have a couple of palettes from Stila. This first one is a 6-pan called Blue Realm, and the couple of colorful looks that I did with this palette turned out to be absolutely beautiful. It is one that I would not hesitate to reach for and play with. Definitely these four are the ones that I am most drawn to, but these are also quite nice single shadows. Or individual shadows, I must say. And then this one is the Happy Hour, also by Stila, based on the design and the name on the front. I really like this palette. It is one of the very, very few cool tone palettes that I have, and everything that I have played with so far in this palette has been great. The only thing is, if you do not like glitter, you will not likely like these types of Stila palettes. There are 4 mattes, but everything else here has quite a punch of glittery goodness, and so if it's not your jam, you will probably not like this palette. And speaking of glittery goodness, I'm just going to show this palette very quickly. This palette is only for Halloween purposes. It's the Cleof Cosmetics palette. It is very, very glittery options in a kind of Vaseline base. It's super cheap. It's just, as I said, I use it for Halloween and nothing else, and I would not recommend it at all. It's just a junk palette to achieve some sort of a godish look that I'm looking for when I am trying to do Halloween looks. That's about it. I don't even count it as part of my collection, but I thought I should show you anyway. And I would be remiss not to show you at least one of these. These are the palettes that I use for my quad of the month. They are $1 quad palettes available at Sephora under the Anastasia brand. If you go to Anastasia Singles, you will see this palette as available for purchase for $1 each. And they are all, of course, removable magnetic pans. And I do like the clear cover because I can tell one quad from another very quickly. And then I just use a eyeliner pencil to write on the back what is each one of the shadows that I decide to put in a given quad. I have a few more magnetic palettes to show you. A couple from Makeup Forever that are the large palettes, and also one of these small palettes from Makeup Forever. I have a few more of these, but this will be sufficient. I'll show you this one and another one. And I should also mention that I have this kind as well, which are perfect to house sideways some of those Cleona Cosmetics multi-chrome shadows. This is the perfect size palette, and you can find those at Sephora. But for the purposes of today, I want to show you these two palettes because they contain Makeup Forever singles. You'll see I have 7 singles here, so I consider this kind of the primary palette, and this is the second one, so it's a 7th shade here, and this is a setting powder from Makeup Forever, and I have a couple of blushes from Makeup Forever as well. And that is, apart from the 9-pan palette that I showed you and the depotted singles, that is as much Makeup Forever as I have. And then these guys house a couple of different things, and this is what protects the eyeshadows. And this is a set of 4 palettes from the Lorac eyeshadow series. There is the nudes, the plums, and the navies. And then this is the mint palette from Lorac. And then I have a couple of Smashbox singles down here, but the majority of this palette is Lorac or Lorac, depending on how you say it. And I'm quite happy to have them, but I do want to start focusing on them. And out of the whole set, I really enjoy the plum colors and that kind of a light baby blue right here from the mint palette. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful shade. And then in this other palette, I have a couple of things. I have a few Rimmel singles, So I've got two Rimmel singles. This is kind of a shiny bronzer and a face powder. And then I have a Sephora single right here that is a kind of a shimmery bronzer as well. And then these 6 pans are a depotted Sephora blush palette. That's it. If you have watched all 4 parts, you deserve a medal. If you are here for part 4 alone, that is fine. I am happy to have you. I hope you found this part entertaining. If you are interested in going and taking a look at parts 1, 2, 3 that you may not have seen, or you want to review this one again, whatever you like, you can find the links to all these videos, all 4 parts of this series, in the description box. Hopefully that is helpful. I hope you enjoyed this gargantuan effort of trying to get through all my palettes in this collection, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, if you would want to see something different in a palette collection parade, and I can always keep that in mind next time, which I hope will be in a year, for the next time that I'm going to do the same thing and show you everything in my collection. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it every single time, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. But for now, take care.